Hello, welcome back. I don't know whether you have any idea of who I support as a football team, but there may be some clues, and the clues may be some things that you see, or maybe that I talk about this football team. But yeah, if you follow a football team, one of the things about following a football team is they have highs and they have lows. Now, my particular football team have had lows this season. In fact, they've had really bad lows. They came very close to not even beating the lowest ever points that any team has scored in the Premiership. There's a clue. There's another clue. The thing about following a football team is it is about something that's in here, not in here. Logically speaking, why would I want to follow a team that, well, means that every now and again I have to go through a really hard time? But I do. I've followed them over the last 25 years, and I followed them when they went down, and then they came back up again. And they had this guy who was amazing, Swiss guy, a magnet, a shipping magnet, and he did amazing things. And we all went, yeah, he's the saviour. So there's something about following a football team which says we look to follow, we look to identify, we wear the colours, we do something where we shout out, we'll support you evermore. And that's the challenge which we're going to look at in this week 4 of Growing in Faith. What does it mean to say we'll support you evermore and commit ourselves long term to Jesus? Over the past few weeks, we've been talking about faith, and we're talking about how faith in Jesus Christ is expressed in a relationship. And that faith is expressed in putting our trust in things that we say we believe. In other words, we believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and we believe that Jesus Christ died on a cross, and we believe that that brings us salvation. That brings us a relationship with God. And then we talked about how that relationship is articulated. Well, now we come to that question of, is it necessary to nail our colours to the mast? Is it necessary for us to say, yeah, I do believe that? Well, there's that verse that I put on the sheet where Jesus said, if people say they belong to me publicly, I'll say, yeah, they belong to me. But if they say I don't belong to Jesus, I'm not going to admit that they do before God. So there's a whole thing in this thinking which is about saying it's important for us to acknowledge something of the relationship we have with God. And over the past few weeks, we've perhaps looked at what that might entail. Now we look at it and say, well, so what does that mean when the rubber hits the road? Counting the cost. Saying, is this what I really want? Is this what I am going to say in front of people? Yeah, I trust in this. I trust in this Jesus. Like the football team, in our heart, not necessarily because we can rationalise it and say, I know everything there is to know, because I don't. But can I say in front of people, this is what I am going to trust in for the future? I've said from the very beginning of this course that this is about what you want. This is about you. This is about you and faith and what that actually means to you. So here's the final bit of this part. Next week, we're going to be looking at perhaps something that's really important to a lot of people. We're going to be looking at what Holy Communion is about, and we're going to explore that a little bit. But here's something now as we get towards the idea of saying, I need to decide what I'm going to do. You know that thing about nailing your colours to the mast? That actually goes back to a battle, a sea battle, a couple of 100 years ago, where everything had been blown to bits. The ships were in a terrible state, and a young sailor got the colours of the fleet, and he climbed what was left of the mast, and he nailed the colours to the mast. That's where we get the phrase from. And everybody saw there is still hope. There is still, amidst all the difficulties, amidst all the troubles, there is still something that we stand for, that we're going to work towards. And that's a little bit like us. We're saying, in the midst of a world where a lot of people even a laugh at Jesus. A lot of people joke about him. We're saying we're going to nail our colours to that mast to say that's who we belong to. On the sheets that accompany this video are the words that people say when they get to a baptism or confirmation service. And what I want to emphasise to you is this is not the finished article. This is not us saying, I've got there, I tick the box, I know exactly, it's all sorted. This is the start. This is a little bit like when you go out with somebody. Now, those of us who married know there was that thing when we started to go out with somebody and we began that relationship, and then there came that moment where you declare your love for the other person. And then there's that moment, it's usually a quiet moment, where you ask them, do you want to commit to this for life? Do you want to get engaged? And then there's the moment where we stand up in front of people. Last Saturday I did a wedding of my niece, and they stood there in front of 300 friends and family, and they said, this is what we want, and we commit ourselves to each other for life, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health. And they really mean it. They don't know where that's going to go. They have no idea what their relationship is going to go into the future, but that's the direction they want to go. And this is what we're talking about. When we acknowledge God before other people, we're saying, I don't know where this will go, but it's where I want to go. And my hope is that's what you want. And if that's what you want, you'll be hearing from me with the invitation to say, this is what I want to do with it. So I hope this has been useful. See you next week when we talk a little bit about Holy Communion. But in the meantime, praying for you as you think on these things and work out what's best for you. God bless.